I'm going to open it up to Terry and Clint. Just talk a little bit about Schema and themselves. Started with introductions. Terry, why don't you go ahead and go first?
So I'm Terry, my wife Elizabeth. We are Salterra, and we're actually in Florida, in Orlando, where you're driving to Fort Lauderdale after this call. I've been doing SEO since 2010, so 14 years. I was forced into it. I'm a software developer by trade, and I got into SEO just because one of my current clients was paying for something she didn't know nothing about. So I kind of got into it. And then my actual first paying client, was in penalty. So I kind of learned a lot about SEO, about getting somebody out of penalty. So, but it wasn't right in my wheelhouse because as a developer, I'm very technical, I'm very analytical. I like code better than colors, so to speak. So hence the reason why I brought in Elizabeth at the beginning to do all the design stuff. But yeah, and I love to teach. We have SEO Spring Training, SEO University, which Clint and I and Elizabeth do all three, so, or both of them. Anyways, that's enough about me. So Mr. Clint, one of my dear friends, by the way. So.
Only when I send them the PayPal invoices.
Yeah, exactly.
My name is Clint Butler. I've been doing SEO, since 2009. Was in the Army 22 years, retired, went to Afghanistan, did that for a couple of years as a contractor, made a whole lot of money doing a whole lot of nothing. And then came back, started my agency, started SEO in the black hat world and in harder niches that most people avoid, i.e. gambling, porn, that kind of stuff. And then migrated over to doing local, mainly local stuff, and a little bit of affiliate. Currently running or growing my agency out. Just finally wanted to get serious behind doing that, and focusing on a couple niches: rehab and roofing. Just because I want to pick on Terry and have fights all the time. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And we're doing more conferences, doing more consulting, that kind of stuff as well.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys again for being here. I really do appreciate it. So, before we get, we'll open this up into a Q&A a little bit later on, just to let everybody who's watching know. So you guys will be able to ask some questions and we'll be able to get some answers. But I kind of wanted to lead in with, kind of if you guys could kind of lay some foundation for everybody, just about Schema, and what the things that you would want to learn if you got started today, that these people could probably benefit from.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is understanding the type of schema that Clint and I do. It's not plugin schema, so we do what's, I don't know, I guess the term would be advanced schema. But the things that we try to teach and that we try to explain about this process is a lot of agencies and a lot of freelancers, just don't do this stuff because it does take research, it takes time. You actually have to put some thought into it. And unfortunately, a lot of agencies out there kind of just do the bare minimum. So what we teach and what we try to explain to people is if you want to do schema, you want to do this type of schema, it is super beneficial. Can you rank a blank page with it? Sure. Can you rank a blank website with it? Sure. But is it the magic bullet? No. That's one of the biggest misconceptions that, I get, and I'm sure Clint does too, is that if you think Schema is going to fix a already dropping website, you're wrong. So again, we've done multiple tests, hundreds of tests around Schema the past 5 years. And if you're on a downhill climb, whether it be an algo update or something else, you can't really put a whole time of energy and effort into a bunch of schema and think all of a sudden you're going to make a redirection and head back towards the top. You have to find out what the problem is. Schema is the icing on top of the cake. So When we explain schema, we explain that, doing a search, and schema is the only code that all the search engines came up with themselves, so that we know it gets read, as long as, put it in the head, don't put it in the footer, you're wasting your time. But one of the things that we try to teach is that schema is a way to bring in everything into one spot about a person, about a brand, about a service, about an association. And so it makes the search engines understand your web pages better. So it's the easiest way to explain it is saying, if you search your brand or a person and they've got, 60,000 results, your job with schema, or our job with schema, is to go out and pick all those most pertinent and important URLs, mentions, whatever, back into the schema for the one spot. So search engines don't have to work as hard. I personally believe schema was originally thought of as the organization tool for the internet. And because of the process of what schema is, if every website had advanced schema on it, I think the internet would be a much more organized place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Clint, what would you add?
And I hope they don't all put advanced schema in there, because that'll ruin the value of it. So
Exactly.
I mean, if you look back at the history of schema, originally when we started doing it, there's plugins that were taking advantage of it, and people were seeing ranking boosts. And those plugins did what Google tells everyone to do today, which is this basic, vanilla schema that you should all have. And all the plugin developers and everything, God bless them, they've enabled the lazy, and that's what they have in their the Rank Maths, SEO Press Pro, Yoast probably one of the more advanced ones out of all of them, but still they enable the lazy to say, yeah, we got it. So if everyone's got this basic templated vanilla schema, then there's no differentiating. So if you remove the differentiator from Google, then that schema actually doesn't do you any good. So when you put that advanced schema together, an advanced schema, I like to use the term advanced schema, but at the end of the day, I think the schema that I do uh, as a daily SOP is probably pretty vanilla in and of itself. But I'm telling a story to Google, and like Terry alluded to, Google's using or wants to use, or all the search engines want to use schema to classify documents on the web to help make sorting easier. And if that's true, if you have the right parts of the schema in there saying what your page is about, Google doesn't have to read the rest of your page. It's already figured it out. So it saves crawl time and saves resources, and you rank faster. So if to go back to your original question, I think I would want to learn the parts of schema that Google is using to determine what my page is about, so I can avoid just doing the rest of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, for sure. And I have seen, I've seen, because I obviously work with a lot of people doing local SEO, and I've seen some experiments, where people get like local business schema right, and it does seem to increase relevance, maybe not authority, but relevance. So in terms of like which keywords you actually show up for. And when it comes to local business schema, do you guys have any like hard and fast rules about how you apply that?
Go ahead, Clint.
For me, it's local business part. I'm just really just tying it into the map. That's what I want to do. I want to say this business is for this map, and they represent each other. And you can duplicate, like if you have 4 service listings on your Google map, then you can duplicate those services in your schema and put that connection together in the hopes that your maps would rank. Now, I'll be completely honest, I'm the worst person to ask about maps rankings. So, take that all with a grain of salt. But that's what I use the local business stuff for. I want to tie that out and say, this is a real business with real people behind it. Here's a real phone number, a real website. If it's a legit location, here's this real address. Now rank me, please. It's kind of how I use local business stuff.
Yeah, and just you know a little bit further too, because we have done tests on local business schema. Definitely 100% goes on the page that the GMB is attached to. Now the caveat of that is you don't want to, if you only have one location and your location's in the footer, I wouldn't put local business as your site wide, unless you have an exact match domain or you have a city variable domain. But I do think that it does help putting local business schema on pages that you don't have a map that are neighboring to the city. And you can still use the same machine ID. We have seen, you know, bumps in those areas also. So it's definitely 100% on the page that has the city page that has the map GMB on it, and then test it yourself on the neighboring areas. You know, there's again, test it before you do a lot of work, because it's depending on your niche and depending on your city. New York City and the boroughs is completely different than Dallas and Plano and those areas. So test it on your local business or your local city pages, and before you go out and do them for all. I think we all have a bunch of local pages, but you know the schema is the time consuming thing. So the local business page or local business schema should tie in a lot of the city variables, especially when you get into the abouts and mentions. And you know, if you have a location in Phoenix, of course you know about Phoenix. You know, of course you probably know about, you know, things about Phoenix. So just remember local businesses on that more specific side for that, you know, city or town or whichever one you're doing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I had heard a rumor, and now I'm wondering if it's true, that when it comes to local business schema, you only want one page tied to a GPB entity with that particular local business, like with that. So if you have one local like one GPB, you want one page that links back to with a local business identified in. Is that true?
No, no.
Yeah.
So if, let's say Terry is a roofer in Phoenix, but Terry also goes, because he's smart, Fountain Hills, Tempe, Glendale, Scottsdale. You can have those individual pages and tie it to that map. Your map won't necessarily rank in those areas unless there's just zero competition, but your pages will get a boost out of it because you're tying a real business to that location.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because in the past experiments that I've done, because all this ties back to knowledge graph. So schema, website content, everything else. I noticed knowledge graph starting to influence Google Maps. I believe it was December of 2021. Was when you started to see relevancy crossover from websites onto Google Maps. Before that, it had way more to do with the GPBs, specific text services, FAQs, and CTR. And then what I've noticed actually after the big August update to GPB, I've noticed that those knowledge graph signals are strengthened significantly. They turned down CTR and reviews, and they turned up knowledge graph quite a bit. And so when it comes to putting something into knowledge graph, I've heard a lot about triplets. Could you guys kind of explain that a little bit? Like when it comes to entity triplets? Have you guys heard that? Okay, this is Brian.
That's a new one on me.
Okay.
I haven't seen that term come around me yet.
Okay, so this is Brian Cotto's thing. So like if you have an entity, it'd be like a person knows about a thing in a place. So like that would be a triplet. So this business knows
Okay.
about, and so that's how Google makes the connections, in terms of like relevancy. So if they want knowledge graph to be represented on Google Maps, they want to know what you know about, who you are, and where it's at, so that they can list you in the search results. If that makes sense, how would you guys go about doing that?
Makes sense. This is a pretty simplistic explanation of the application of the knowledge graph, though. I would argue there's probably a little bit more to it than that. And I say a little bit sarcastically, meaning a lot more to it. But it is a good basis to start out, right? So if you have nothing else for you going on, then why not try put that together? You can do that with about and mentions. You can do that with offers, with services. You can do that with areas served, all inside of your schema, and tie that loop together. Um, I think there's a few other places too. I can't remember them offhand, but you can drop that synergy in there, what you're trying to say about your map and connecting it to your actual page of your website or pages if you're going with the service area stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
But well, one of the biggest things is like what I talked about last weekend at Patrick's event is that, you know, Schema helps identify, especially people that have, you know, a very identifiable name, but it's spelled differently. So, you know, one of the things that I showed the power of Schema is that, you know, Patrick Shannon's Patrick is just with a C. It's not a CK. So when you search his name, Google doesn't differentiate very well with the CKs. It just assumes that it's misspelled in whatever direction. So Schema will very likely make a better understanding of which Patrick, the misspelled version, that we're actually talking about. So if that makes sense.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that does make sense. Like, help to reinforce that this entity is differentiated. This is
Yeah,
a separate
exactly.
entity. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
another way to think of entities and you know, semantics and all these different terms out there is that, you know, if you have a page that's about wood-based boards, you know, some of those entities are going to be different types of wood, pine, walnut, cherry oak, you know, and then, you know, some of the other semantic type possibility terms are also going to be included in there that we can install in the schema. And we try to, of course, write that into our content on the front page. But the thing that people don't realize is that you can basically build an entire second website in Schema. So you don't have to use the same terminology on the public side that you want in your Schema. Actually, we mix it up. So especially when you have misspelled words, you know, if you're in the marijuana industry, you know, marijuana is misspelled probably 6 or 7 different ways. Put that stuff in the Schema. Get credit for it. Get credit for those entities that have to do with that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes tons of sense. This is great for me because again, you know, I think there's a lot of mythology and legend about Schema that's out there. You know, and one thing was, you know, that I had heard, you know, local business, you should only have that tied to a single Google Maps location. I actually share that information with people, so I have been corrected. So thank you so much for that. Awesome. No, I really do appreciate that. So we did a poll. And just 3% said that they're pros at Schema. 40% said they're pretty good, but it could get better. And 40% said they use it, but they're not confident about their skills. So starting first of all with people that aren't confident about their skills, do you guys have any recommendations about how to get better without, you know, destroying any customers?
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Clint.
yeah, greedy capitalist in me says Terry and I have a course coming up. Come sign up for the course and learn about it. If you're busted broke and you know, or you're just stupid cheap, then go to schema.org and figure out how to read that website. The keys are all there in that website. So once you figure out how to read that website, the opportunities will just kind of just fall right in your lap. But you can cut that learning curve down by getting a course. You know, we got the one coming up. I have one that teaches you how to read schema.org specifically, not necessarily writing schema, but how to use that site. So those are the other opportunities, or you can just do like Terry and I did and research and waste 3 or 4 years trying to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is understanding, like Clint said at the beginning, is the different parts of Schema. There's a lot to Schema. If you go to schema.org and you type in, you know, medical, and so you start looking at the different variables and all the medical schema you can do. I mean, it can be a rabbit hole. It really can. You know, I started Schema just doing schema.org. And then kind of just testing. I had one little website I built just to kind of see, you know, can I stack Schema? Can I do some different things? Can I mention something twice? You know, all the different variables that we try to test, you know, and then I just figured out, you know, I found a different tool like topicalrelevance.com. That was one of the first tools Clint and I started using to start putting in and finding machine IDs. So we didn't really need to go out and search the source code of a map to find a machine ID anymore. So there's tools that have come out that'll help you write schema and help you understand schema. But then I think the key is where to put it. Again, I did a presentation on, I had to put the wrong schema on a wrong page and it crashed that page. So you can change the way the search engines look at that page by having good schema, right, wrong, or indifferent, and you'll have negative effects. But yeah, I think I think there's a lot of resources out there. People have taken my site and taken the schema off of that to try to learn from it. Good luck. There's a lot to it.
Yes.
But I think more importantly is start with schema.org to see what you can include within that parameter. If it's medical, if it's construction, if it's a plumber, see what all kinds of variables that let you put in there and test it. Because even though schema.org says it might work, you can still maybe get an error from Search Console. So they'll have to read each other.
Can you say again what the tool is to look up machine IDs?
Tropicalrelevance.com, or excuse me, topicalrelevance.com.
Yeah. Or you can find an even more robust version in Zizta, Zizta.com. The same guy owns both of those tools.
Awesome. That's excellent. Yeah, I actually did. I looked at your schema, Terry, and I made it through about 2 pages, and I was like, I had a hard time estimating how much work you put into that. It's pretty. It's
and that's why one of my disclaimers at the beginning of my presentation is all this takes work. If you're an enterprise SEO, you're going to have a hard time getting a lot of what Clint and I do installed on their enterprise sites. So you might have to do a roundabout or workaround with Google Tag Manager or something. But yeah, and like I said, it's the research. If you have a very old business that you're getting ready to do stuff on, there's gonna be a lot more stuff about it. If you have a brand new business, there's probably not going to be a lot. But it's all basically going out and trying to bring everything into one location. That's kind of the bottom line.
Awesome. No, that sounds great. Okay, so then the other 40% of people said they're pretty good, but they could get great. What would you guys say is the difference between someone who's good at schema and someone who's great at schema?
Testing. People actually test and see what does what do, and experiment, play around with, be inquisitive, quit being a sheep, go figure that, get beyond that stuff, and don't let other people talk to you or talk down to you and devalue something that is working because they can't figure it out. The number one thing that I hear all the time when Terry and I talk is, "Oh, you can't do that for our whole website." At no time ever, when I was speaking about advanced schema or when Terry speaks about it now, did we either of us ever say, "Do this to all of your website"? And anyone that claims that they're doing this to all their website is lying. So, get out there and test.
Yeah, that's the key. Got to test.
Awesome. So, before we move on to the FAQ, Clint, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about your product and what problems you're trying to solve with it. And just how you recommend that people go about using it if they want to get started.
Sure. It's Rankgear, rankgear.com. What we're looking at is the other schema writers that were available out there. You have the enterprise schema app. It's probably the premier and oldest schema writing tool out there. And it is stupid complicated. So unless you're in it every day, every time you go use it, you're going to have to learn how to reuse it because it's got forms and it's a database setup, etc. So, and then you have the other side of it where the schema is just too basic and you need something a little bit more robust to save your stuff. So we created Rankgear based off of that. It's just kind of the monkey in the middle. You can go inside of there, write pretty decent schemas right inside of the tool, and then export that and build it out the way like I would do it or Terry would do it, etc. We're trying to get it so that I can just upload one of my schemas and then it will understand all that stuff. But doing that with tables, etc., it gets a little bit rough. But so far, it's doing good. I mean, at this point, it's kind of a passion project. My business partner, he owns topicalrelevance.com and Zista as well. I mean, he's moved on to those, and we promote Rankgear, we maintain it, we're adding new features and stuff, but by no means a money maker for either of us.
Awesome, that's great. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, like go ahead and put it in the question and answer. And we'll start getting down to them. So we've got Bert who's asking, let's see here. He says, I've used Schema for a long time. My issue is that when using WordPress, it is one for the entire domain. However, many of my sites are for different locations, say 40 different cities. Let's see here. On Schema with one schema and one address for all of them confuses the algorithm. What do you guys recommend as a solution to that?
It's probably, if he's doing one and then applying it to his entire website, that is not inherently wrong, but you don't have to do that. You're not required stuck to do that with WordPress. So tying that issue you're having with WordPress is incorrect. We already addressed the multiple cities and how to handle that. I would probably just, if you have 40 cities and they're all like in the same metro area, use the same map. It's logical that you service those, but if you have a Phoenix location, you don't put your Phoenix location on your Dallas landing page, because you don't go there. So it doesn't make any sense to do that. So there's certain common sense that needs to be addressed in that.
Which actually brings me to a question that I think everybody who's done enough SEO has dealt with, which is when it comes to having a site structure that supports multiple areas of service. What do people screw up the most?
Building the silos out properly and interconnecting the right ones so that it makes sense to the algorithm.
100%. That's I love teaching on siloing. It's, in my opinion, an on-page world, not even counting Schema, it is the most important thing to get right, especially nowadays with AI just vomiting content into the internet.
Would you say that it's better to have a silo for a region and then silos for services and interconnect them, or to do a silo for a region and build your services under that region?
No, yeah, the service region type of structure, service state. You can even do service state city. It depends on the URL, of course, depends on the domain. But Salterra site, for instance, is a very strict silo. So you can kind of look at that as an example. I wouldn't recommend doing that on your client sites because it'll take you forever to explain it. But you can see what a silo looks like in a physical realm, as far as through the navigation system. You go to one area, you stay in that area. But yeah, I think the service and then regional is the best bet. I've seen people combine the two. But I do think the service pages are also rankable pages. So, and they're also good pages to send links to go down and funnel into your silo. So.
Right. So if you had 50 cities and you were doing roofing and siding, you'd have 50 regions with each having a service page for roofing, or would you?
Yeah, for sure I would. And then, but again, it's that question with the client. If they need an extra 50 pages, is that included in the price? That's another thing too, because I know most roofers would rather have roofing than siding. So have those conversations and say, look, we can put this money here, or you can pay a little bit extra for this, would be the big thing. And then also, like I said, if you're a roofing company and you're bobsroofingcompany.com, siding is going to be a little bit more trickier type of silo to get ranked, because Google's getting very well at putting stuff in buckets. And so that's why domains are so important right now.
It's really an it depends question too, because if you're dealing with a single business that's servicing multiple areas, then doing it Terry's way, I mean, it's totally fine. I would prefer to do the location pages that offer these services that link back to this primary service pages, and those primary service pages link to the location pages. So I have this, I'm not making, roof repair 10 times. I'm making one service page about roof repair and then having this location page that says we offer all of these other services too.
Exactly.
But in franchises, the way Terry explained it, I do that all day long because every franchise has to, you can't pull them out of their individual funnels. You can't pull a visitor from, one franchise to a generalized universal service page because you screw up the attributions, etc. So in that case, you do have to build it like Terry does it. And that is a pain in the ass. Not, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's it's funny because this particular question is one that I've seen lived out so many different ways. And I suppose, especially, on less competitive stuff, it doesn't really matter. But if it's super, super competitive, the more specific a page is relevant to the whole site, probably the more that you can have it be connected to that subject in a way that Google prefers it. So having a specific page has a benefit, but it has a huge cost. And over time, like, is it worth that cost? And sometimes it probably is, depending on competition in dollars. And sometimes it
Well,
probably
and you really have to keep an eye on those as far as indexation too, because those are the ones that typically fall out of index pretty easily.
sounds. Will Scott said it's a semantic triple, not a triplet, and I do appreciate you for that. So thank you. And then let's see here. Will we be looking at some examples? I don't know. Do you guys have any examples that you'd want to show somebody?
Go to salterrasite.com and put that
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, you really can. If you want to look at how you can build out schema, look at salterra.com. It
I
is
got one I can show
Yeah.
right now too. So
cool. Yeah, I think you could share.
let's see, share. Boom. All right. So let me, yeah, you're not going to be able to read it. So just deal with it. What the hell did I just do?
How many lines is that? Do you know?
I just turned something on and I don't know what I did. Oh, come on.
You were up at the top. I don't know what you
Yeah,
did.
I don't know what I clicked.
Oh, yeah, probably tiled the windows.
Son of a bitch.
I'm sitting here trying to read it.
I know. Let me do this. Stop share. This will be easier for you guys to read anyway. Control E. Yeah. View. Soft wrap. Zoom. Share. Boom. Should be a little bit easier to read. All right, so this one not very clean, but we're not looking at the code layout. I'll just turn off soft wrap. You guys don't need it. There you go. So all of my schema, I look at it where if I'm going to the validator and it says website, organization, professional service, breadcrumbs, web page, and it has all of those listed, that means that I did the schema wrong. So when you go to test my schema, I want it to say web page and breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs because I'm lazy and I hate doing those, so I make my plugin do the breadcrumbs for me. But then I have web page, and in my web page is set up. This whole schema is set up like a outline. And what I mean by that is this web page is about, and it mentions this, and it is published by, this organization. And it is part of this website. And it has part, and that's images, images, articles, videos, etc. And it, it offers is really good, especially if you're offering services like that. You can do services, you can do products, etc as part of that. So when you put it in my schema, the only thing you see is web page other than the breadcrumbs. And that to me is, if I'm trying to tell a bot a story, I should have it look like this, right? I should not go, and it should not do this part where you have web page, organization, website, local business, service, product. Because what that is doing is making the algorithm figure it out. You have it there. It's better than nothing, but you're still trying to make the algorithm figure it out. When you force feed it just like this in this hierarchy, it takes care of that for you. What you're looking at here is an example. This is just my basic schema. I do the same schema for every web page. I'm testing out some AI content stuff with this at the same time. So sometimes I'll put it on, sometimes I won't. But for the most part, this is every web page. And most of this output comes from Zista. It's the same as topical relevance. Again, just more stuff to it. Some key things in here: significant links. These are backlinks. These show up inside of your Google Search Console, and Google is counting those as backlinks. So use significant links. Keywords, just testing this. It's part of Zista. He wanted it in there. I thought he was wasting his time. Google will not rank you for any of these keywords just because you have it in schema, but we're testing it to see if there's any value in it. It mentions and about, what is the page about? What does it mention? Depending on your tool, you can get some of these tools that actually read your content and then find the entities and put that stuff in there. Or you can just do what the algorithm says you should be about and you should mention for that page. I go with the latter because it's much faster. Has part, here's what I'm talking about. When you add the images, a lot of this stuff here, Google requires a lot of this madness. Technically in schema.org, all you really need is the URL, but Google wants your licensing and all that other stuff. So why not tie in who I am with the associated keywords, analytics, search, Google Analytics, etc. If I do this enough times, what happens is I change what's related to my name inside of the algorithm. I got 7 images on this page, I think. 8 images. And then I say, who wrote the article? I did. So there's my author information, my publisher information, and then here's my website is part of the website. Can I get out and do more of this stuff? I can, but I don't know how that page is going to rank, so I'm not going to go out and go full on with this. Why make it hard? 75, almost 80% of this is really just copy paste. This section here, I copy paste the images. This section here, I have a little template. I just copy paste and then do it how many times I need it. This stuff here is all copy paste from out of the tools. Just clean it up to make sure it's right. And then this is part of, I just represent what my silo is. If I'm just doing one page, or let's say I'm doing 5 pages that only link to one page, I would use significant link and just link to that. There's my silo. Or I can do significant links and put all of my silo. Let's say I did 1 money page and 10 silo pages. I can put all 11 links inside of here and it would continue to build that and interconnect that silo. So if I wanted to be silly tricky, put all my internal linking in here and not put it in the content and see how that works.
That is awesome. Awesome. Okay, what is, all right, so on that note, because we got another question, which is, will your course require real time or can you take it asynchronously? What is I want to start by asking, how do they sign up for your course if they'd like to take it?
The class or the course?
Uh, well, if there's two,
Yeah.
let's go with both.
Well, we're doing the class. The class will be Terry and I together at SEOuniversity.com, right?
.net.
Yeah, .net. So SEOuniversity.net. Now I'd probably be I would say that would probably be the best one to sign up for because two minds is much better than one. And if you have unique situations and stuff, we could probably help you out during that course to figure out what you should be doing as well. If you just want to learn how to do schema.org, then that's at whatranks.com. You can sign up there.
Awesome.
Yeah, the class is also it's a live class. It's going to be 1 week, 3 days in 1 week, 2 hours each day. We're going to go through all the ways that we do schema, how we decide what goes in schema, get into a little bit kind of funky stuff about, installing schema into images and doing some other stuff like that. So it's the first time I've done a class and Clint's done a class like this.
Awesome. Sounds like an awesome opportunity.
And then also a second little thing is that in my mind, four out of the top 5 schema people in the world are going to be at SEO Spring Training. So
Yep.
Clint and I, Simon Cornelius, and Andrew Sterling Ansley. So powerhouses in this stuff that, obviously, networking, network is better your net worth. So, but yeah, we did that on purpose too, just because we want to bring in, kind of the best in different areas. And there's one more left that he's the other one. Unfortunately, he's in Europe and can't make it. So, but we've all been doing schema for, I think 4+ years. So.
Well, and I just want to take a second and, just to let everybody know, so SEO Spring Training, I have a lot of friends that throw conferences and I appreciate all of them for different reasons, but SEO Spring Training is hands down, especially for agencies that are doing local client work, it is awesome. Like the skills and what the sharing, you get a really great mix of like what works, like what's against the rules and what's in the rules. And people are not afraid to share both. And you get to really know what you're up against with your competition or how to beat them. It is an excellent conference. I happen to be sponsoring it, but I do just want to go ahead and say that Terry and Elizabeth and Clint throw an incredible conference. So just take a second to say that. Okay, next question. Nathan, as an agency owner, we're always looking for ways to add upsell opportunity. We've seen that schema can be a valuable way to add product is a la carte for clients. We sell schema using star snippet, rich result feature. Just curious if Clint and Terry have any insights into using schema to create productized offerings for new clients.
Terry,
I include it with all packages, obviously. Matter of fact, if you get a web design from Elizabeth, it's also most of the time it's going to include schema also. But it is a good upsell, especially my older clients when I had to upsell them. Basically, just have the conversation, and depending on the size of the website, that kind of dictated our price. I do a lot of white label for agencies on schema, and so it's the same type of thing. So, but yeah, it is if you're good at, I upsell all my clients every month, or at least try. Because there's always something new that we can try. There's always something new that we can implement through our products of our agency. So, but you would just have to figure out when and if you can do that. Obviously, the time-consuming part, if you priced it wrong, which we've all done, then you're going to have to take it a little bite at a time, and maybe just do like just maybe do site-wide, and then the main service pages, and then the following month, maybe you go and you do some blogs, or it depends on what kind of money you guys are getting and how much time you want to spend on this, because it can take a lot of time.
It's going to take you a day to do the template for a new client. So just
Yeah.
go ahead and mark a day off right off the bat. Once you have the template, copy paste makes that go by significantly faster. It's that 1 day initial investment that's going to get you. I have offered Schema on a single basis and totally cool doing that. Charge accordingly for sure, but also set expectations. There's people who come for you and bring that advanced schema. I mean, they're going to pay $1,500 to $3,000 depending on how many pages you want to do. And then they have this idea that, oh, now I'm going to rank great. You got to set expectations right off in the beginning, or else they'll go out and talk trash about you. So just be careful of that.
For sure. I tell people schema is a lot like buying good backlinks. So, or getting good backlinks. We don't buy backlinks. That's Black Hat. But anyways, but a lot of times, one of the reasons why I don't sell backlinks anymore is a lot of times what we do to websites in those two instances will bring Google to our site that Google will now pay attention to problems. So, a lot of times, a lot of websites out there can kind of just float by and they can rank and do some certain stuff, but all of a sudden they have something like schema or, a times.com link. And now all of a sudden Google's really looking at your website. So, or that web page or whatever. So again, just make sure your web page is solid, your website's solid, and then start doing the other things. That's my advice.
Yeah, and I can say this, on a site that's built really well, if you already have good authority, if you're ranking well and you add schema, I have seen significant improvement. But it's like everything was already there, it just wasn't explained to Google really well. It had authority, it had content, it had everything that it needed. And schema definitely punched it up quite a bit. So, I mean, I think this is, if you look at, everybody's talking about Markov chain 4, which is just a way of evaluating multiple different signal factors. If you have many signal factors and the one that's missing is how well your information connects together, and this is like the knowledge-based trust or the EEAT thing, schema is definitely going to impact that. Now, if that's the difference to ranking or not ranking on that site, it's going to make an improvement in my opinion. Which does happen, but it's not every site. Is what I would say.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So J. Rafa asks, on websites, are you using separate schema? Oh wait, and actually, how much longer can you guys go? We're at 10:51.
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
just driving.
All right. All right. Awesome. On websites, are you using separate schema types on every single page post, or even on less important ones, less important pages, article schema types for team pages like person schema template for child team member pages? I guess, are you using separate schema types for every page?
Yeah, every page is a different thing, right? So you have to use a schema type that's necessary for that page. If you are only doing informational blog, then you're probably going to live in article schema, right? But if you have a local business, you're going to probably live in service product and local business schema. So, but
Which is kind of what you were demonstrating. You're nesting all of those other schema types under the page schema type.
Yep.
So that they only have one that is what type this one and what the one object is,
Yep.
and then everything else just relates to it.
My schema, you'll go to it and it'll always say web page. That's the only type that it shows up, but nested in there are different other components to it that you need. So, and those vary depending on the page that you're dealing with.
Yeah. And Salterra side, a lot of my pages I've split up just so you can see the different types. But like Clint said, usually they're all in one and they just have all the different types matched through ad IDs that make it not necessarily cleaner, but
It's cleaner. It's better.
I
agree 100%.
Well, and my perception would be it tells a coherent story that Google doesn't have to figure out for themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so Debrada Dada says, I have a question. There's always been a major debate within the SEO community about whether schema is overhyped. How do you defend its significance when it's often difficult to show concrete results after implementing schema?
It's not difficult if you're tracking the right things. If you're writing schema like Terry and I do, any rank tracker will give you your answer almost within a week. You're and assuming the rest of your SEO is any good, your rankings will go up. Assuming the rest of your SEO is any good. The 99% of people, talking heads and blah blah blahs that are preaching schema now only concern themselves with Google's rich snippets features, and that's the only reason they do schema. And they don't see any results, rankings improvements from their schema because they're using basic schema that everyone else is using just to fire off those rich snippets. And then they cry because they didn't get ranking increases from it. They're not doing it right. That's at the end of the day, that's what the answer is. So I stopped talking at conferences about schema because I got tired of having that argument with people. I mean, you just don't get it. I mean, how many times do we have to punch you in the face to say, do advanced schema, put this stuff together and you did it right and you're going to rank better? And you just don't want to do it because you want the rich snippet or you want the little stars underneath your thing that Google's not going to give you most of the time anyway, and say that schema doesn't work. So,
And I would tell you to go out and build a test site. Clint and I both have pages and websites ranking with just schema on them. So, but again, do it yourself. Go out and buy a domain. Put a basic WordPress site on it and start testing schema. You'll see how powerful it can be, especially when you start using the playing with the entities and all the different things that now Google's looking for in their signals. It'll definitely help.
Well, and there have been times, like as an example of something else where people said that it wasn't working. There was a time where people would say press releases weren't working, but you could use a press release and you could still add relevancy. It doesn't add much authority, so it's not gonna if you're neck and neck with somebody else and you have all the authority already for a topic, nothing's gonna change. But if you add a new subservice and it's related to it and you get authority from it, then you can actually rank that much better than you did before, just because the press release helps signal that you have relevancy there. And so, there are certain things like that where on its own, it's not a powerful signal, but with other signals, it is very powerful. Okay. Next question was how much schema is used on blogs? How did you guys answer that?
I think we already touched that one.
Yeah.
Go to schema.org. You can go and see how much schema you can actually use on that.
And then the next question is, how do you effectively test changes where there's delayed between work done and impact on Google?
Same way. Again, you've got to pick a page, test it, be very diligent about, what you're including in that schema that has to do with that page. Again, it's all a matter of, I wouldn't worry so much about, showing results unless you actually understand where the results are coming from. That's the big thing. And when you explain it to clients, that's the hard part because you don't want to get real technical with it. All you're doing is, giving Google a better understanding of what this page is about. So the stuff that we really can't put on the public side because, you'd have a whole bunch of error looking code on the public side.
Also, you're good. You can only work on so many pages on a website at any one time anyway. So do the schema, put it on there, set your rank tracker up for your target keywords, and then leave the page alone. Go work on something else. See how wait till it's done.
Well, and I will say that like these days, because of the relationship between Knowledge Graph and Google Maps, I have seen experiments where one of our mutual friends, Nick, put some pretty detailed schema on his separate location pages, linking together all the services and areas, and his maps changed, which meant Knowledge Graph changed because the way that is getting into maps is through Knowledge Graph. So it definitely impacted Knowledge Graph, and that was just with schema. So. What types of schema can we use on practice area pages for lawyer or attorney sites?
It's professional services and person.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about the BETA beta speakable structured data?
The Speakable has been inside of schema.org for years. Google just finally put it onto their documentation. They want you to populate for their what the hell's their service? It's not the Google Home chat thingy, voice search thingy. Thinking
Bard.
that no, it's like Alexa, but not. Anyway, it's just everyone's getting all over it like they did with voice search originally. Rand Fishkin said voice search could be the next big thing, and then it turned out to be a big flopping dud. So, I mean, if you have it, go ahead and use it. In case, especially if you're doing, I would say if you're doing information searches, product reviews, and that kind of stuff, it could be useful in that regard, but I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time in it.
Well, okay, Will Scott asked,
Nope.
a webinar specific discount for Rankgear.
Yeah, no, we don't have one. Actually, our first discount code we're giving away at SEO Spring Training in April. That's the first and only time we have it. This price is so low. It's $49. Can't.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. All right. When you talk about testing, how do you go about this? What tools and time frame? Yes.
Well, that's a whole new webinar right there. But as Terry alluded to, just give your, if you have, I do all the testing on Schema on my own agency site. You can do that, or just go buy another domain on some weak keywords and do it there.
Cool. Sound good. Question is at graph or no at graph?
If you know how to do that graph, then it's useful. But at the end of the day, you can do it with is part and has part, and you don't have, and you remove the entire complication of at graph. I used to teach people how to do at graph, and I'm redoing the course on what ranks to eliminate it because it's just so easy to break, and it's kind of overly complicated for no reason.
All right. Hi Courtney. Courtney asks, great info, thank you. I put my VA through an expensive schema course a couple years ago. As opposed to taking it, I let her go last year, replaced her with a new VA, so schema knowledge went with her. I don't know if I have the time to really dig into schema right now, but I know it's really important. So are there any white label services you would offer now or in the future that we can offer to clients?
Yeah, I have a white label service for Schema. It's actually one of my favorite parts of our business. So, but I also really try to explain it to whoever I'm white labeling for, instead of just vomiting a whole bunch of, files and stuff on it. But
I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm not really a fan of white labeling because I got to teach other SEOs how to read it so they can explain it to their clients, and SEOs are cheap anyway. So I charge you what I would charge a normal client, and then it's up to you to upsell it. And by that point, it's probably too expensive anyway. So
Yeah, cool. Interesting stuff. When is the training ready? Or when is your class happening?
well, I'll tell you.
you don't have it memorized.
No, actually, it's I don't, just because
I don't either.
I actually believe it's in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
SEOuniversity.net, right?
Yeah.
So go
So
to
yeah,
SEO.
it starts February 19th. The Schema class does.
Cool. Awesome. Clint, are you pulling data from Cora, dropping entities into descriptions and keyword lists? Does Cora pick up the schema when it runs a page analysis? Thank you.
Cora sees the schema, but I'm not using the entity list from Cora. I have the new version that no one else has access to. It's the beta. Well, everyone has access to it, but no one's using it, right? Anyway, I don't use that to create the schema and pull a list because it's just too much manual work going line by line.
I agree.
All right. Then there's a question which was, does Rankgear do that? But I don't know which that is.
He asked that when I was showing mine. You can build that inside of Rankgear. The only part you'd probably want to keep out is the about and mention section. You'll have to add that manually each time, just because that changes for every schema, and it's just a pain in the ass. So, but the rest of it, you can build a whole template inside of there and just plug it out, have your VA do 99%, and go add your about and mentions, and you're done.
Can you share the page that's live or drop in the document?
Yeah, he did that already.
Question is, do you have schema SOPs? I'm guessing for sale.
I do. As a matter of fact, I think the schema class people are definitely going to get at least our SOPs. So.
Cool. All right. When you have written the schema, do you have to revisit it every now and then?
Have to?
I mean, here's the thing. So it all depends on how many links you put in there. The biggest thing that we've seen a problem with is if like I do list my citations in my schema. So we do have to keep an eye on that. So if they go away and it's a 404 error, it's like anything else. You don't want a 404 in your schema either. So if you do stuff, again, testing, I test with a lot of links inside my schema. So, but it's also another PETA that my staff has to worry about because they have to go to these pages and just make sure that we don't have stuff in schema that's, not live anymore or doesn't exist anymore. So,
and then do tools like Ahrefs and Salterra find broken links in schema?
no.
Okay. Well,
most of the tools out there, Ted's getting a little bit better, but most of the tools out there don't read schema. So Pop, Surfer, they claim they do, but it's just a very skim, especially when you're talking total number of words on a page. So a lot of tools will say, hey, you need to add another 1,000 words. Well, you might have 1,000 plus in your schema that they're not adding. So not that that would be a problem anyways, in my opinion, but again, it's just use tools very relatively, I would say.
Okay. Awesome. So someone's asking if we could do a webinar on agency assessment on how to use it. Absolutely. I actually was planning to do that for my first webinar topic, but I thought this would be a little bit more interesting to people. But I'll do a webinar at some point soon. Our webinar next week is with Andrew Ansley on how to generate excellent brand level content with AI. And that should be really good, and that'll be next Wednesday.
Yeah, he just released his tool.
Yeah, his tool's awesome. He's also a speaker.
Yeah. He's fantastic. I'm definitely excited about that. That'll be really, really good. Can Clint show a URL or the document he used in his demonstration?
You can just go to my website, Digitaleer, Google it, Google Digitaleer Phoenix, and click on my URL to give me some CTR. Go look at the schema and the blog post. There's some different versions on there. You can see I'm testing different versions.
Cool.
Yeah, one thing about both Digitaleer and Salterra site is we both use our agency sites for testing because they're both fairly powerful and we can get results pretty quickly to either put on the brakes or do more. So sometimes you might go back to that page that Clint just said and it'll be different. So don't be surprised. Don't message him and go, hey, what happened to your schema? So
yeah, and I did there is a discount code for SEO Spring Training. Sorry, I just change subject. If you would like to attend SEO Spring Training, that is the coupon code, which is AA Schema. If you would like to come to that conference, it's an excellent conference and I do recommend that.
And that just a little caveat. So if you use that code, it's only live for a week. So if you use that code, if you buy a VIP ticket or a tech ticket, then you get to spend an hour with either Clint or myself or both of us. And if you get a general admission ticket, then you get a half an hour, kind of Q&A type of thing to help you out. But just a little extra plug just for Eean and his audience. Like I said, it goes away in a week. So, and the conference is getting pretty close to being sold out. So it's going to be maxed out at about 180 people. So these aren't massive conferences for a particular purpose, because the networking, and this one's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be stage in the morning. So we'll have speakers in the morning on the main stage. And then in the afternoons, we're going to break out into mastermind rooms. So it's going to be really cool format.
And it's not fake scarcity. We literally can't put any more than 180 people in the venue. So
Exactly. We're not cutting it off just because the room's so big.
Then next question is I'm hoping to wrap up maybe in the next 10 minutes. So see if we can power through these.
yeah.
How do you suggest to handle schema for HVAC electrician business? Two separate schema on the homepage, or one for HVAC and one for electrical services, or put respective service pages for each?
Those are services. So you have a brand, Terry's House of Plumbing, and he offers plumbing and he offers HVAC, or in that case, electrician and HVAC. So those are two services that one brand offers.
Cool.
Yeah. You can also test it too. This is one of my favorite tests, is that this is a prime example. So overall, there's actually a schema for home and business construction. And there's also a schema for HVAC, and there's also a schema for electrician. So you could really test it out by, say, you do your site-wide home and business construction, and then your HVAC pages gets the HVAC schema. And this is in place of organization or professional service. They actually have a schema for these three. So again, I would test it and see, what it does as far as introducing it to Google. I think as far as a home services company, if you're not trapped by your domain, if you're, Terry's electrical.com, obviously that's not going to work too well. But I think that's a great way to introduce the search engine into splitting up those two variables with their own schema that they came up with. So,
because they're both two different niches, right? So if you teach it, entirely an electrician in your HVAC stuff, well, it might have problems, or vice versa. So if you use the different schemas that are available to you to tell the different stories on those individual pages, you'll be better off.
exactly.
Have you tried nesting different schema types together versus separate JSON script tags for each type on the same page?
That's the exact example I just showed you guys. It's all nested together.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Can you inject schema into an image or into a Web 2 property? Can you get schema into something that's not on your own site?
Image, yes, you use it's called a hex code. It's an old hacker trick. The problem is that everyone optimizes images when you upload them, and it wipes that out immediately. So you're kind of wasting your time. And then Web 2s, you could put it in there if you can get into the code editor inside of the body or the head, and you can drop it in there.
Yep.
How relevant is FAQ schema?
One of the three schemas that you can do where actually Google will rank you for having it in that schema. Q&A, FAQ, and how-to schema, the questions and answers will index the words inside of there. It's the only three schemas that it does it. So still, continue to do it. And there's tons of people that stopped doing it when the rich snippets went away, funny enough, but yeah, do it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Just because Google said they don't read it, do it, because they do read it.
Awesome. Next is, you mentioned white labeling schema for SEO. Where can I find more information? I did post that in the chat.
Yeah.
Salterra you can reach out to Terry there. Does that work?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, awesome. Will says he's coming to SEO Spring Training. Can he get the deal early?
Yeah, the deal's now. I mean, it's ready to go and live. So plug that coupon code. It's actually the best coupon code out there currently.
So I would say this is for rank mail. I would say
rank man, sorry.
Yeah. What if he sends Clint, if he reaches out to you and sends you the proof that he bought a ticket for SEO Spring Training? or can he get it there? Okay. All right. Love the Webby. Really digging the camera zoom effects on Clint's camera. How are you doing that?
It's called a Lumina. It's an AI camera that auto focuses for me.
Thanks, y'all. Great stuff by Will. Yeah, thank you guys. Honestly, this has been fantastic. This is probably maybe the best schema talk I've heard in this kind of format. I think you guys have been phenomenal, and I really appreciate you guys coming on.
And I really encourage you guys to go down this rabbit hole, because it's and especially if you get into the testing of it, because there's all kinds of stuff out there that we're testing. Especially around siloing and press releases and connecting A to B and B to C. Schema is just a powerful tool to be able to do that. Oh, you have to remove the plugin schema when you start doing advanced schema. I personally use the header footer code manager plugin to dictate where I want my schema to be on the pages. You can also do it by category and tag. I think, Clint, are you still using header footer code manager or using SEO Press Pro?
Little mix of both depending on the website. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
SEO
can
Press
tie
Pro is-
into those plugin schemas. Like if you're using Yoast, the Yoast schema is actually fairly decent. If you take the course, we'll show you how to use that ID and tie into those so you're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
But rank math, I'd delete rank math.
Yeah, Jesus, get rid of that thing.
That's good to know. That's good to know. I know that I have some sites with rank math on them, so I will. Thanks for the tip. Someone asked to add the time and link to the webinar next week. I will be sending out emails on that webinar tomorrow to the same list, as well as posting it on our other pages. So I'll be getting that out. If not today, then tomorrow for Andrew Ansley's webinar on AI content. And then we just had Courtney said, thank you guys, great info from the greats, and she has left. And yeah, that was very nice of her. Awesome. Okay, well that brings us to the end.
Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, take advantage of all this stuff, people, especially if you're interested in this world. Like I said, it's definitely a rabbit hole, but I think once you get into it, especially depending on your personality, you can really do a lot of amazing things with this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, thank you everybody who came to attend. Thank you for joining us here. I do plan on doing weekly webinars, and if you have any topics that you'd like to suggest, feel free to reach out and email me. But otherwise, I just want to say thank you again, guys. You guys were amazing, and I really appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks
Eean,
us.
for having us and doing this. I really appreciate it. So,
all right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.